What's up guys, and welcome back to the Kamui Dimension. Today I want to start a two-part discussion on Baryon Mode and its future implications in the story. But in order to understand the potential future use of Baryon Mode, we need to know the ins and outs of the form and talk about some of the convolutions behind Kurama's lying and explanation of things. So I'm just going to heavily break down what Kurama says so you'll fully understand the concept, and then in my next video I'll talk about what this could mean moving forward in the story. And I'm sure you've already seen a Baryon Mode explained video before, but for the most part, it's going to be completely different aspects of it that I talk about, rather than talking about baryon particles or heating up chakra. So I can guarantee that most of this video, and the second half in particular, will be completely new information to you, and not just a repeat of other people's videos. But let's start with what Kurama tells Naruto. Kurama explains that Baryon Mode is like nuclear fusion, which is how the sun produces energy, and so Baryon Mode is basically the practical application of that concept, where Kurama's chakra and Naruto's chakra are serving as the kernels to produce a whole other, new type of energy. This is distinctly different from Kurama Mode and Sixth Passage Mode because those modes simply involve taking chakra that Naruto acquired from elsewhere and just using it, whereas this is a completely different type of energy. Essentially, what Kurama is saying is that Baryon Mode isn't chakra. It's a different type of energy, just like how nature energy is a different type of energy from chakra. Now, some of you might not really understand why fusing two chakras would create a completely different type of energy, so this is where I'm going to start explaining some real science behind it and make some analogies so you understand it. So listen up to Professor Toby with his PhD from Akatsuki University. First thing you need to know are the laws of conservation of matter and energy, which both say that matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred. And then you have Einstein's equation E equals mc squared, which tells us that mass and energy can be converted into one another, among other things. So the moral of the story behind this science mumbo jumbo here is simply that you can turn matter or mass into energy or vice versa, but the total amount stays the same. So now, what exactly is nuclear fusion? Nuclear fusion is when the nuclei of two atoms fuse together into one nucleus, and this happens when two atoms crash into each other at super high speeds, and then the nuclei fuse together. To give you a visual of this, let's look at Boro for a second. You know how Boro had that black core thing inside him? Boro's body is the atom, and that black core is the nucleus. So imagine we have two Boros running towards each other and then they smash together and fuse into one larger Boro with a larger core. That's basically nuclear fusion. And when this happens, the mass of the new single larger nucleus ends up being less than the sum of the mass of the original two smaller atoms together. And so the leftover mass that is seemingly lost is actually converted into energy instead. And this is what happens in the sun. The nuclei of two hydrogen atoms fuse together to form a heavy hydrogen isotope called deuterium, and then that fuses with another hydrogen nucleus to form a light helium isotope called helium-3. And then two helium-3 nuclei fuse together and release two protons to form helium-4, which is just regular helium. You know, the stuff
that makes your voice really high-pitched.
The mass of the helium atom is less than the mass of the original hydrogen atoms together. And so energy is released, and a lot of it, because the nuclear fusion in the sun is what heats and lights the earth, so there's a lot in there. Anyway, the point is you have hydrogen atoms smashing together, and they eventually turn into a helium atom, which is a completely different type of atom. It's a different element here. So if we compare this to the Naruto world, each different element here represents a different type of energy. The hydrogen atoms represent chakra, and when they fuse together, they eventually turn into a helium atom, which represents Baryon Mode energy. Or I guess if you want to be super technical about it, you could say Baryon Mode would maybe be the deuterium isotope, but whatever, you get the idea. I don't think they meant to get that technical about it. I think they're skipping steps here. And honestly, that's all the stuff we know for an absolute fact based on what Kurama says. So now we dig into some of the questions left unanswered and eventually talk about some of the convoluted stuff that we really don't have a solid answer for. The first question is, how exactly did Kurama do this? Well, when it comes to nuclear fusion reactions in real life, the atoms have to be moving at crazy high speeds so that when they smash into each other, the nuclei will end up fusing together. And this only happens at extremely high temperatures like the ones found in the sun's core, where it's just crazy hot and the hydrogen atoms are in the plasma state of matter, because only then will they have enough energy to move at high enough speeds. And they also ideally need to be confined into a small space to increase the chances of collisions, which also occurs in the sun's core because there is super high pressure from the immense gravity from the sun. So, why am I bringing this up? Well, Kurama knows you could heat up a person's chakra for a temporary power boost because, well, he literally saw the Five Tails Kokuo do it for Naruto against Kaguya, where he boosted Naruto's chakra to the boiling point for unparalleled physical strength, which resulted from an increase in energy due to the chakra being heated up. Now, a lot of people call this mode boil release, but it's actually a boil release technique that's called unrivaled strength, according to this databook scan anyway, where Kokuo used boil release to raise Naruto's chakra to the boiling point, and he could probably use it on himself too if he wanted, I'm guessing. Now, even what Kokuo did is fundamentally different here, because raising something to the boiling point is just a physical reaction, whereas nuclear fusion is a nuclear reaction and far more drastic. And the temperatures required are way hotter than boiling points, okay? It's not 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it's like, I don't even know, like 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit or something. However, it is possible that Kurama took this idea from Kokuo and then applied the concept of nuclear fusion and somehow raised his and Naruto's chakra to the temperature of the sun's core and also increased the pressure too, and that resulted in a fusion of their chakras. Or, alternatively, they didn't think that deeply into the science stuff and Kurama just fused them together and that's all there is to it. It could be either one, we really don't know. But he either heated up and pressurized the chakras, or he just fused them without any special mechanic behind it. Another point to bring up, though, is that it doesn't seem like Kurama had any control over how much his and Naruto's chakra was being used for the mode, and it seems that he can't just stop the form before the energy runs out, as he didn't just stop the mode at the last second, so he wouldn't run out of chakra in order to keep himself alive, so he probably can't. This tells us that all Kurama did was fuse his and Naruto's chakra together, and when he did so, he had to just fuse all of it together at once. And assuming he actually did the heat their chakra up to the plasma state thing to force nuclear fusion of their chakra, he can't control how much chakra fuses. It probably just all fuses together at that point, and that's probably why he couldn't stop or undo the form. Once he does it, it's over for him, and that's why he says, "Do this and it's over." And that's going to be important later on, that's why I'm bringing it up now. But now I want to get into some of the convoluted stuff. First of all, I feel like this had to be the result of a translation error from Japanese to English, but Kurama lied, and then he lied about not lying. It makes no sense, and he does this in both the manga and the anime. When Naruto asks why Kurama didn't bring this new power up sooner, Kurama very clearly tells Naruto, "Because you'll die. Do this and it's over." In both the manga and the anime. Then later on he says,
"Just so you know, I never once lied to you. At no time did I ever say that you would die."
Like, what? Yes, you did, bro. I have it on screen, you big fat liar.
That's right. You're a big fat phony.
This had to be a translation error, I swear. It just makes no sense. If Kurama said all that in a Japanese version, then I don't know what the hell Kishimoto was smoking when he wrote that chapter, but he had to have been just as high as Konohamaru in chapter 72. But the reason I bring this up is because Kurama says very clearly later on, "The Baryon Mode's price is my life, not yours, Naruto." And that power came in exchange for Kurama's life. There was no question if Naruto would die from this form. It was always Kurama's life that would be sacrificed, no ifs or buts about it. However, Kurama said earlier on that, as the raw materials to create this energy, my chakra and yours get consumed, until one or both of our lives run out. Things just don't really add up perfectly here, and there's 3 different general possible explanations you can make for how this all works. Option number 1 is that base Naruto just has more chakra than Kurama now, and Kurama knew that, so there was absolutely zero question that Kurama's chakra and life would run out first. Or alternatively, just at that moment, Naruto had more chakra because, he was using Kurama's chakra to fight Isshiki. I don't really think either of those is what they were going for, because while Naruto does have a crap load of chakra, and that's been talked about a lot, it's never really been implied that Naruto had more chakra than Kurama himself. That's why Naruto asked Kurama for more chakra so many different times in the war arc of Shippuden. And part of the reason Naruto was known for having so much chakra was because he had Kurama inside him. And they've been blabbing on and on about how much chakra and power Naruto lost because he doesn't have Kurama anymore, so it would be pretty weird for Naruto to have more chakra than Kurama now, to be completely honest. Option number 2 is that Kurama just lied about Naruto's chakra being involved at all, just like how he lied about Naruto dying from using the form. This goes back into the whole translation error thing again, but honestly, Kurama might not have actually said that shit about Naruto's chakra being consumed in the Japanese version. And if he did, then he might have just lied about that too. And instead, Kurama might have just done all the nuclear fusion stuff with himself, where maybe he either fused his own little chakra atoms together, or he fused his physical and spiritual energy together to create baryon energy, instead of mixing them to create chakra. And then Naruto just used Kurama's baryon energy. This would make sense for why Kurama was like, well, the price of Baryon Mode is my life, not yours, because in this case, only Kurama's chakra got fused together in some manner, so Naruto wasn't at any risk whatsoever. But the problem with this one is, for one, it doesn't really fit the nuclear fusion thing that well, since Kurama talked about Naruto's chakra being used too. And Naruto also showed signs of extreme fatigue, and Sasuke noticed that Naruto's chakra was dropping rapidly, so it does seem like Naruto's chakra was actually being used for the form, so that option's not the best either. Option number 3 is just absurdly balls deep, and honestly, I don't think they remotely thought this shit through to this extent, but if you want to get all sciencey again, it actually does make perfect sense. Remember how I said in nuclear fusion inside the sun, first 2 hydrogen nuclei fuse together to make deuterium, then that fuses with the hydrogen atom to make helium-3, and then 2 helium-3 atoms fuse together and release 2 protons to make helium-4? Of course not, but now you remember, and this is very important. A hydrogen atom is just a proton and an electron. It doesn't have any neutrons, so there's only a single positively charged proton inside the nucleus. And in the plasma state of matter, electrons are completely separate from the positively charged nucleus of a hydrogen atom. Or in other words, the electrons just do their own thing and are indirectly involved in some other sun reactions that result from nuclear fusion, but they aren't part of the main process I explained earlier. So when it comes to nuclear fusion, it's really just a collision of 2 protons that kicks it off. As I mentioned earlier, hydrogen atoms represented chakra, but these hydrogen atoms are really just protons, meaning the protons represent chakra. And the helium atom, which contains neutrons as well, is still baryon mode energy. Now, I don't think Kishimoto is following the sun's nuclear fusion exactly how it is in real life, and instead I think it was just a 1-step fusion process rather than a 3-step one. But if we look at what happens in hydrogen's fusion into helium, in the first step 1 proton gets converted into a neutron, and in the third step 2 protons get released. Since baryon mode seems like a 1-step reaction, let's just combine both of these things into all 1 step for now. It's possible that Kurama just made it so that the protons or chakra that gets released and recycled were Naruto's, while all of Kurama's protons or chakra were used to make helium or baryon mode. And so when we look at the actual reaction, there's 6 protons that are involved. 4 end up as helium, with 2 of those being turned into neutrons, and 2 get released. So all of Kurama's protons or chakra might have been used in the helium atom or baryon mode, while most of Naruto's got recycled, so that way only Kurama would die, rather than Naruto or both of them dying. Kurama would just run out of chakra since all of his is being used for the reaction, whereas Naruto's is recycled back into Naruto's body, which lets him stay alive afterwards. Now, like I said, I think Kurama just fused the chakra all at once, so since there are protons inside helium atoms, I'm guessing that the red baryon aura that represents helium here still contain Kurama's chakra inside it, like the protons inside helium. And so that's why Kurama didn't just disappear immediately and was still inside Naruto while the form was active. But as Naruto used the Baryon energy during the fight, that energy left Naruto's body, and so did Kurama as he was inside the energy. This energy was essentially dispersed as a gas throughout that dimension, and so once all of it left Naruto's body, Kurama turned into a gas and left Naruto's body too. And guess what state of matter helium is most commonly found in? That's right, a gas. Kurama basically turned into helium. Kinda cool when you look at it that way, isn't it? I don't think they actually thought this through to this extent, and I'm sure plenty of you will say, bruh, you're reading way too deeply into this. And I can't really disagree there, but hey, at least it makes perfect sense as long as you understand the science behind it somewhat. And I don't really see any flaws to the concept at the moment. It's just complicated. The last thing I want to touch on is the whole Baryon Mode shaves off your opponent's life force because all chakra is connected thing. Baryon Mode itself isn't chakra, but like I said, it still contains chakra as a component of it. And so what's probably happening is, since a nuclear fusion, some of the protons get turned into neutrons and ultimately end up as a helium atom. Whenever Baryon Mode Naruto hit isshiki, he probably was essentially using Ishiki's chakra and life force as part of the reaction, meaning Ishiki's chakra and life force got shaved off and utilized for the Baryon Mode. In the sciencey terms, Ishiki's chakra either turned into neutrons or his protons got smushed into the helium atoms. Either way, they were being drained from Isshiki and put into the Baryon Mode reaction instead. And if you want to look at it again from the sciencey aspect, what happens in nuclear fusion is the hydrogen atoms smash together. They come into contact super fast. What Naruto's doing to Isshiki is he's just making contact with him. That's all that mattered. He just had to keep hitting Isshiki. Essentially, he needed to get a bunch of little collisions. That's why that makes sense. He's basically colliding and forcing Ishiki's hydrogen atoms to become part of this reaction against his will. That's really the only way that would make any sense. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense for why Ishiki's life force would magically just get shaved off. So I think this makes sense that his life force ended up getting used as more fuel for the reaction via collisions, although the chakra material still gets used up incredibly fast, so the form doesn't last for very long even if you're smashing Isshiki around and stealing his chakra. Now you might be asking why this is so important.
Seriously? You asked why?
But that's what my next video is for. Now that you have way too much knowledge on Baryon Mode, it'll be really easy to follow the topics I discuss next time as they are way simpler. But I didn't want to just jump the gun and say some stuff and have people not understand it. Nor do I think people would have watched a 30-minute video on the topic with the first half being a bunch of science mumbo-jumbo. So just wait a couple days for the next part as it's a fun topic of discussion. But I want to hear what you guys think. Does this help you better understand what the heck is going on with Baryon Mode? And do you like my explanation for why Kurama died but not Naruto, despite what Kurama said previously, as well as my explanation for why it actually shaves off the opponent's life force? Or did this video just confuse you more and leave you with more questions? Let me know in the comment section below, but that's a wrap on today's video, so thank you guys for watching until the end, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, like the video, and hit the bell icon for notifications. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.